Tonight, a historic moment as King Charles III opens Parliament with a powerful throne speech signaling a new chapter in Canada's governance. We'll explore the nation's evolving relationship with the monarchy and what it could mean for our identity.
And the latest NHL playoff action that's keeping fans on the edge of their seats. From Montreal, I'm Eddie Tekalik.
And I'm Gary MacDonald. This is episode 35 of Night Talk. Now, before we begin, remember, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts with us simply by posting a comment. Make sure you join the conversation. So let's dive in. The newly elected Liberal government is getting down to business. Yesterday, King Charles read the speech from the throne outlining Prime Minister Mark Carney's act.
Many Canadians are feeling anxious and worried about the drastically changing world around them. Fundamental change is always unsettling. Yet this moment is also an incredible opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to think big and to act bigger, an opportunity for Canada to embark on the largest transformation of its economy since the Second World War. A confident Canada, which has welcomed new Canadians, including from some of the most tragic global conflict zones, can seize this opportunity by recognizing that all Canadians can give themselves far more than any foreign power on any continent can ever take away. And that by staying true to Canadian values, Canada can build new alliances and a new economy that serves all Canadians. The Prime Minister and the President of the United States, for example, have begun defining a new economic and security relationship between Canada and the United States, rooted in mutual respect and founded on common interests, to deliver transformational benefits for both sovereign nations. Honourable Senators, members of the House of Commons, when my dear late mother addressed your predecessors 7 decades ago, she said that in that age and against the backdrop of international affairs, no nation could live unto itself. It is a source of great pride that in the following decades, Canada has continued to set an example to the world in her conduct and values as a force for good. The true North is indeed strong and free.
Some of the legislative agenda highlights include, and we'll go over to that screen now, cutting income taxes and GST on homes under $1 million, a boost in housing with prefabricated modular homes, an increase in border security with additional staff and powers, reform of bail system targeting repeat offenders, reduce natural resource project approvals to one only approval in a time frame from 5 years to 2 years, introduce legislation to eliminate federal trade barriers to internal trade by Canada Day, and a $5 billion investment over 5 years for infrastructure projects in Indigenous communities focused on water, utilities, roads, and telecommunications. And a lot of that, Eddie, was basically from the playbook of the election campaign.
Yeah, he's basically rinse and repeating the same thing, what he committed to do during his campaign, what he committed to in his, first of all, when he won the Liberal leadership, he already started speaking to some of this. Then during the election campaign, he reiterated pretty much every one of these. After he won, he came back again, and to various shows he was on. Questions reporters asked of him, concise and directly on point, on message, consistently each and every time. And the king did so again on his behalf, reiterating the same plan and program. And Gary, I know that you and I are pretty excited about all of them, most of them, if not all of them. But the one I think both you and I are extremely, extremely eager to see get done, and he's committing that it's going to get done by Canada Day, getting rid of the interprovincial trade barriers. Man, if he can accomplish that, he's already worth his weight in gold, in my opinion. Especially nowadays, the way things are going.
I think we should clarify that, though, Eddie. He's talking about the federal side of the interprovincial trade barriers, and there's a lot of federal regulations in play there. He's going to wipe those out now. And if he's successful in pushing that through in the short session that he has before summer, then the other side of it is he has the summer to strong arm any of the premiers who were all on board initially, but some of them seem to have lost a bit of interest, or they're kind of sitting back a bit and watching some of the other provinces, because we do have some deals between like New Brunswick and Nova Scotia. Ontario and New Brunswick, I think, recently signed a deal. So they're coming down, but all of the provinces have to realize that this is not the whole insular approach to it has to stop. It has to stop. It's 2025. And that's the other thing that Prime Minister Carney has been talking about, and during the campaign, and even in the last few days, is going from 13 economies to one Canadian economy. Well, there's only one way to do that. That's break down those barriers right out of the gate, for sure. So I think he's really, it's an ambitious agenda that he's put out there. And it's going to be interesting to see how it goes in the House. Now, today was the first day of question period, and his very first question period. And apparently from all reports, because I didn't get a chance to catch it, from all reports, though, he did okay for a guy who comes in from government, but on the desk side of government to the political side of government. He was prepared and ready to go. And of course, the whole vibe in the House was different because there's no Justin Trudeau, there was no Pierre Poilievre, and no Jagmeet Singh. So, you had Andrew Scheer, who's been around, and of course, a former leader, at least for one election campaign, and a former Speaker of the House as well. And he was, throwing some questions back and forth, but it wasn't the same kind of atmosphere. It was almost, some reporters suggested it was kind of boring. But I'll tell you, in the final months before Parliament was prorogued last fall, the comedy show, the embarrassment that was taking place day after day in QP was embarrassing as well. And it was wearing thin too. So I'd take a little bit of calm and boring versus what we were witnessing at the end of it. And there's one theme here. There's one player who's missing, who seemed to be the one who would always make those dirty snowballs and throw them. And it's the guy who's on the outside looking in and waiting, trying to get reelected in a seat in Alberta. Yeah. Now, before we get into the reaction.
I like that. How Canadian.
So before we get into that part of it, let's flip back, because the speech from the throne that the king gave yesterday, did you notice how he looked up at when they finally started to applaud about the True North Strong? Yeah. And he had this kind of, there was this little smirk on his face, like, yeah, I nailed it, and they finally got it. kind of thing. But I think a lot of people were like, it's the king, do you clap or what? But, he's on our turf, he's in our house, and he's a figurehead. And yes, there's all kinds of pomp and ceremony, but we're Canadians. And when you say something like that, especially with what we've been through over the last 4 months, 4.5 months, almost 5 months now, and elbows up.
Right.
To hell with the diplomacy and the pomp and the ceremony. You want to clap. That's patriotic. Speaking of patriotic.
You know what? I don't think I've ever clapped for royalty myself. Maybe when Princess Diana was still alive, but listening to speeches from the throne or from the crown in England, Gary, I have to admit, it's been decades since I needed to give them a round of applause. I hesitated somewhat at the beginning, but when the rest of the Senate, the people in the Senate started to clap, it was very hard not to clap, whether you did it physically or emotionally, right? I felt for it, and I was really proud of the entire exercise, the pomp and circumstance at the beginning. I watched that. Rarely do I do that, and listening to the speech was just great, and it was really good to see Carney really enjoying the moment beside the King of England. So I think the whole thing was just great. And you had to cheer. I had to cheer inside for what the King had said on behalf of our country.
I just love the smirk after he delivered it. Like, you don't see that very often.
I'm surprised you didn't get a fist bump.
Exactly. Greg, I got your message, and I apologize for that. I must have hit my mute button as I was flipping over to another scene there. So anyway, we're back, or I'm back. So, and Nancy says, let's go here. She was proud as well.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. And so. But the speech, James Moore, former Conservative minister in Stephen Harper's government, he nailed it yesterday in his thoughts on the speech. He said, if there was ever a fine line to walk, it was what was needed with this speech. And it was the right speech at the right time, for the right audience.
And the right wording.
Yeah. And he said it was well done all the way around. Bringing up the sovereignty issue, and then that was all part and parcel of the King's quick visit and reading of the speech from the throne, because it's been 70 years since his mother was here and read a speech from the throne. So, that part of it, he just said it all came together. However, reinforcing our sovereignty was not necessarily in the Trump playbook, as witnessed by this Truth Social post that popped up later in the day. If I can find it, we'll have it. There it is. And it reads, I told Canada, which very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system, that it will cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation, but will cost $0 if they become our cherished 51st state. They are considering the offer. He can't let it go. He just can't let it go. And I think somebody referred to it today as he did not want to be upstaged by the by the King.
You know what I have to say to that?
Wait. Let me go full shot. There we go.
That's what I have to say to Mr. Trump, Emperor Trump, Kaiser Trump, whatever you want to call him. This is what I say to that. And you're absolutely right. He just can't let it go.
No.
And it's that last piece that, basically saying that we want in. Well, who did he talk to? I've heard absolutely zero from anybody anywhere on the planet that we're in on this thing. Were there discussions about it? Maybe. I get it. I mean, at the end of the day, with this, even with this Golden Dome in place, these things are going to be raining down on Canada's head anyway.
Well,
Somebody shoot them out of the sky, right? You would think. Huh? So
and not only that, but we've got that over-the-horizon radar system that we're working on with the Australians.
Correct.
And so why do we need a Golden Dome? What's this, a branch of his Space Force? Remember when he rolled that out? It was like we were going to a B-rated science fiction movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was just, how could he do that kind of stuff with a straight face? I don't get it.
Because he thinks he does it with a straight face, Gary, because the man just believes he's right about everything. He's never wrong. And you can't convince him, his followers, his base of anything other than that. So I know it's frustrating for the rest of the world to understand what's going through his head. We'll never understand it. So why try? We can just look at what he says, take it with a grain of salt, laugh about some of the ignorance in some of his posting from the President of the United States of America. You just have to laugh at it. I'm sure if we perused European news or news in Australia, I guarantee you they're also sneering at a lot of the things that he's actually posting on a regular basis. So yeah, so sad to see that. I wasn't angry. I had to laugh. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah,
wave my flag. That's what I can do. Wave the flag.
And Monel says, I actually saw a Facebook post with that, and over 6,000 people basically laughed at him and said, hell no. Over 6,000 people. So, but he still doesn't get it. So there was, of course, was the usual reaction from political quarters. And we do have some of that. Of course, we don't have anything, the NDP now is a party without status, and the Green Party is a party without status. So we only have the Conservatives and the Bloc left. And this is what Pierre Poilievre, as Conservative leader, I might point out, this is what he had to say yesterday.
We did see a lot of the right slogans and political talking points, but no clear plans to get it done. One slogan dealt with controlling government spending, but there were no specific savings to roll back the morbidly obese Liberal government's costs. We saw promises about getting things built, but no mention of oil and gas or pipelines. Pipelines are, of course, the thing we most need to build. Didn't get one mention. Nor did they mention getting rid of the anti-energy laws that have kept our resources in the ground. C-69, the no development law. C-48, the shipping ban. The energy cap. The electric vehicle mandate. All of these things were left out of the speech altogether. No specific plans to get anything done, even though, as the Prime Minister has said, we are in a crisis to break our dependence on the American economy.
And he repeated what he said about 2 weeks ago now, I think it was, where he is willing to work with the Liberal government and get 3 or 4 different things pushed through, and it all centered around a lot of the energy issues with the energy bills that the previous Liberal government brought in. So he said, I'm willing to work with them on that. But, and then he went on about some other things and then bringing up some history as to,
it was how they improved. It was 10 long years, okay? We're over that now. Let's move on.
And also he brought up about how the party is speaking from a stronger position now because they picked up, I forget now the number, 1 million more votes, and and a few more seats. But you know what? You still did not get a majority government. And as we have said over the last 2 or 3 weeks, Pierre, there are two things at play here. The first one is you didn't win your seat. You lost, and lost quite handily.
Yeah.
And you know, the other thing of it is, again, it was only really a two-party race, except in Quebec. It was a little more, a little, shall we say, more
competition for seats.
Yeah, thank you. Than what you had in the rest of the country, because the NDP was out, just out, period. And of course the Greens were the Greens, and God love Elizabeth May. They took a hit, and she's still standing. She's and I think she's a good constituent politician, but she's also a good parliamentarian as well. She knows her ropes in the House of Commons and how to work around in the back rooms and what have you. Unfortunately, instead of drawing on that kind of expertise and ability, the other parties just tend to ignore her, which is
right.
Their loss, in my opinion.
Well, you know what? Yeah, we never know. I mean, Carney's going to be bringing a different style into his method of governing Canada. He may extend a warm hand out to her and get her more involved with, what's important in Canada, especially when it comes down to the environmental issues. I mean, look, if they're going to be building the pipeline that we so dearly need between Alberta and out to the East Coast, someone like her should be engaged in right off the bat and get her clearly involved with the process. Look, she's not stupid. She knows this is something is going to put Canada on the global energy map by completing this. And maybe through her leadership, through the Green Party and her environmentalist views and base, she might be able to overcome some of the obstacles that are going to present themselves by the environmentalists, especially here in Quebec. I mean, we were basically a bottleneck the last time we tried something like this. You never know. So I think Prime Minister Carney I'm hopeful that he is going to reach out to the expertise in the entire chamber to be able to govern the country and get us moving ahead by leaps and bounds. As
well, on the other side,
earlier on, the comical charades in the commerce, right, in the chamber itself. I mean, we got to stop with the clown shows and let's get to business.
Yeah, exactly. And Deborah chimed in earlier, and I missed it initially when we were talking about Trump, and that sums it up nicely. Laughable.
Well said.
Yeah. For sure. Now, the other side of the story, we do have another party in the House with 22 seats. And of course, that's our Bloc Québécois. And Yves-François Blanchet had a reaction to the throne speech as well. And it's really quite interesting.
It is the most important initiative by a federal government towards centralization that I have seen or heard of. I do not believe it is ill-intended. I believe that Mr. Carney sees himself culturally as the CEO of Canada, and he will make decisions, and he will have his decisions being implemented by everybody, and he seems to see that Quebec and provinces are merely region offices. And I'm not mad at him now, and I intend not to be. It is the way it works where he comes from. This is not the way it works in this place, and it is not the way it works within this federation, as terrible as it might be for us. So my plan is to do what I promised to do during the campaign when we started going up again. We will meet next week. We will discuss in complete serenity, and we will try, and I will try to find common grounds in order to work together, because the issue at the beginning of the campaign was the threat from Donald Trump. And in the speech, there's no such thing. It just vanished, disappeared. So we have to make it what it's supposed to be, adaptation for Quebec and Canada facing the threat from Mr. Trump.
Interesting analysis.
Okay. You know what? I mean, there's truth in what he's saying, okay? But I two things came to mind, Gary, if I may. The first thing that struck me is when he basically tried to describe Prime Minister Carney as a CEO of a company and the provinces being, his subordinates, and, what the CEO says goes type of thing. Isn't our system of government in Quebec very similar in what we're going through nowadays in terms of the way François Legault is managing the province? Very much similar to what what Blanchette is saying about the within the Bloc Québécois. He's saying about how Carney is seemingly posing himself as a CEO. The man just started working again as the Prime Minister of Canada. Parliament is open, so we're now really open for business and making changes. So I'm not exactly sure why he put that out there, because it doesn't really put Quebec in a very good light. But I'm glad at least he said that. The second thing that struck me is maybe it's a linguistic thing with him. Is he didn't clearly understand the nuances of what was actually put into the wording of a lot of the elements of the King's speech that specifically pointed directly at the United States of America without actually raising their fingers and saying, I'm talking about you, America. There's a lot of things in there. So I guess it's just a language thing that he didn't pick up on. But look, Poilievre has got is making his points. He's still looking back at what we went through the last 10 years, so he refuses to get on with it. I'm very hopeful that when he at some point does get elected in Alberta, that he's not going to start that clown show again that he did with Trudeau. And I don't think Carney's going to allow him either. I think he's a proud statesman. He's not an experienced statesman, but he has dealt with statesmen throughout his entire career. So I think he knows how to handle guys like that. And our only other alternative right now is the Bloc Québécois. And I'm really hopeful with his leadership, with Blanchette's leadership, he'll realize the importance of Quebec and Canada and Canada nationally when we actually start talking about becoming a global powerhouse in energy production. And Quebec is a piece of that puzzle. And Quebec needs Canada to be part of that puzzle as well. So I'm really hopeful that what Smith and Alberta said. She was very pleased to hear what was coming out of Legault in Quebec about energy and working together on that. She was pleased with that, and I hope that kind of conversation carries forward to everything else that needs to be accomplished on top of removing the trade barriers. So, those are the two things that hit me when he spoke.
Now, one of the interesting things that Blanchette said in response to a reporter's question yesterday was talking about holding the balance of power. And he said, well, we have 22 seats. He said, all the Liberals need to do is convince a couple of the New Democrats that are left in the House to vote with them, and it's done. He said, we're not interested in that. Where our power is going to sit and where we're going to be able to use that power is at the committee level, on committees.
Right.
And he said, then we'll be talking about some negotiation and back and forth and moving things forward. So it was interesting to hear him say that. He also made mention of, I won't call them negotiations, I guess talks at this point in time with the NDP. Now, apparently, the way I'm interpreting this is that the NDP is trying to cozy up to the bloc and strike some sort of deal where maybe they can get, it sounds like, and I may have misinterpreted, but it sounds like they're trying to strike some kind of a deal where they could tap into some of the bloc's research funding. Really interesting. And Blanchette was playing it really very coy as far as this was concerned. So that's an area that we need to be watching over the next little while. That could prove to be really very interesting.
Yeah.
And let's go ahead. I'm just going to catch up on a couple of comments when you finish.
And another thing that I was actually very, very happy as I'm a proud Canadian. I'm a proud Quebecer. I've been living here my whole life. Where the King, I mean, his command of the French language was awesome. It was really awesome. I don't think it was just a reading thing. I think he actually has a command of the language to some degree to be able to speak that eloquently, right? So what I was really happy to hear from the throne speech, that A, was bouncing to French quite often, and B, that Quebec, the French part of our nation, was actually emphasizing how important it was. And I thought that was bang on by Prime Minister Carney in one of his first major acts as Prime Minister. Like, real major acts is the inclusivity of not all Canadians, not just Canadians, but the inclusivity of all Canadians, Quebecers, French-speaking, and a lot of hats off to our Indigenous folks here in Canada. So he covered all the bases really, really, really well. And, you know, reflecting back on Pierre Poilievre, you know what? The King of England is not going to go through the 100 items that have to be addressed in our country moving forward over the next 4 years. He picked the most important ones. I mean, we get that. So to actually, you know, pick on that in terms of what the King said and did not say, you know, I thought was, I don't know, I'm not going to call it unprofessional because I know it was tactically sound to him, but it was a little cheesy if you ask me.
All right, so let's go to the comments. Joe is joining us. He checks the obituaries every morning, still disappointed. Going back to, see who he's going back to by his little emojis there. Yeah, okay. And where are we here? Deborah says, as a resident of Quebec, I cringe every time I hear Canada and Quebec. Quebec is Canada and Canada is Quebec. We are, with all of our provinces, one nation.
Well said.
Yeah. And yeah, that's it. I thought there was something else there, but that's it. So, you know, that's the other side of it is I get the Quebec nation but, you know, we all had our elbows up for the first 4 months of the year. And in Quebec, in some cases, it almost felt like some days that Quebec was leading the charge. And I thought, wow, what a moment in Canadian history for us to all be gelling together in one cause against one enemy, if you will.
I think it's still there.
I think it's still there too. And I get what she's saying, because Blanchette really does drive home about the Quebec nation, the Quebec nation, and okay, yeah, Quebec is unique. All provinces have a certain amount of uniqueness to them. The difference being is here in Quebec, we have a real old country charm for one thing, and the other thing of it is, this is the heartbeat, the brain, if you will, of bilingualism in Canada, which gives it another little jewel in the crown, if you will. But overall, we are all Canadians, no question, and we are one. And I think we have to really, we can Quebecers can have a certain amount of in feeling of independence. That's fine. Most Canadians do. We're independent, but we are all Canadians, and they really proved it. It made me proud to be a resident of Quebec over the last 4 months, to see us all standing together and standing up with the rest of the country as Canadians, and saying to our friend south of the border that hands off, buddy. You want to fight? We're ready to go.
Right.
Kind of thing. Okay, so I think what we can do is move on from that, and as soon as I get myself straightened out here, I've got a whack of buttons to push, Eddie. You would not believe. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot one very important thing. I forgot the audience question.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Let's tie that one to the next question as well. Might as well pose both.
Okay. And because it's not coming up anyway. So, oh, there it is. Oh, I see what I did. There we go. So there's the first audience question. Someday I'll grow up and learn how to run this. What stood out most in the throne speech for you? Policy or royal presence? Or both? And please leave some comments so we can roll that through, and we'll wrap it in, because the next segment coming up is going to be about the monarchy, and we'll have another question about that. So in relation to the throne speech and in the opening of Parliament yesterday, what stood out most to you? Policy or royal presence? Okay, so that's that question down. That's good. Now, all I've got to do is, where am I? Right here. Wink. There we go. So coming up next, Canadians appear to be warming to the monarchy once again. First, though, if you are a video hobbyist, you like to do live streaming or record videos for your YouTube channel, and I'm talking to you, if you're never too old to launch a channel, you should have a look at Ecamm. It's a Mac-based video production app. Ecamm powers Night Talk. You can check it out and get a free trial period by clicking the affiliate link below, or scan the code on the side here. So let's get into the monarchy. Now, King Charles reading yesterday's speech from the throne marks the first time a sitting monarch has done so here in almost 70 years. His mother, Queen Elizabeth, was the last one. Over the years, support for the monarchy has been an ebb and flow scenario. During the past couple of years, it's been sliding, but that seems to be turning around according to a new Ipsos poll. And we do have some results from that poll right here. Where'd it go? There we go. So the new poll out, Canada's relationship with the monarchy is useful because it helps to keep us different from the United States. 66% agree with that statement. In April, it was only 54% agreeing with that statement. And in September of 2022, only 60% agreed with that statement. The next one, traditions like Canada's relationship with the monarchy are important to our heritage and help to make Canada and Canadians who we are. 65% agree with that statement. In April, it was only 58%. And back in September of 2022, it was 61%. This is an interesting one. King Charles is doing a good job in his role as monarch. 59% agree. Last month, it was 54%, so he notched it up a bit. The king and the royal family should not have any formal role in Canadian society. The royals are simply celebrities and nothing more. 59% agree with that at the moment. In April, it was 67% that agreed with that. And back in September 2022, 63%. The constitutional monarchy helps to define Canadian identity and should continue to be our form of government. Now, 56% of those surveyed agreed with that. In April, it was only 48%, and in September 2022, 55%. And the final question, Canada should end its formal ties to the British monarchy. 46% agree with that statement. In April, 58% agreed with it. And in September of 2022, you had 54% agreeing with that. So there does seem to be a warm-up that's taking place here when it comes to the Royals. And I'm not sure why. Any thoughts, Eddie?
I really couldn't tell you. I don't know if it's, I mean, look at it this way. Let's say, for example, the king did not deliver the throne speech and they ran this particular survey. I'm not convinced that we would see what you just presented, where there is an uptick in terms of the support for British royalty. But you know what? It is what it is. He did accept the invitation to come here and deliver the throne speech. He did so. He added his personal touch at the beginning when he talked about his mom and genuinely was proud of what she had accomplished during her reign in Canada. He expressed that. I don't know. I think a lot of what we're feeling right now, Gary, is a lot more people are jumping on the bandwagon and looking for any sort of momentum or any sort of certainty or anything we can throw into our resume up here in differentiating and distancing ourselves and differentiating ourselves from the United States of America. I think that has a lot to do with it. And, you know, they must have taken this poll sometime yesterday, I would imagine. You know, I would think after the throne speech, so the numbers are going to look pretty good. I'm interested in seeing what next month presents. I mean, are we going to go back to the same old? Are we going to carry the wave of momentum on the coattails of the throne speech? I think time will tell. But I feel a lot of this has to do with Canadians looking for something to separate ourselves from the United States and not identifying ourselves as part of America or part of North America, but further identifying ourselves as Canada in North America.
All right, let's bring up a couple of comments. Nancy says the royal presence was the highlight for her as far as the throne speech was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and okay, and then we go to Monel. I don't really care about the monarchy, but I'm glad he came in that we showed down south extra power. They can just stay to the south, ruin their own country, and leave us alone. And from Deborah, King Charles gave us a nod, but that's all he's able to do. He's the figurehead here and in the UK. Policy, however, can change our lives. Okay. So we're caught up on those comments. And of course, our second question is, what is driving renewed support for the monarchy? Tradition, current events, or something else?
Mm-hmm.
I think, personally, if we're warming up again, or Canadians are warming up again to the monarchy, I think that it comes from the emotions that are flowing just because of what's been happening south of the border and what we've been putting up with. And maybe a lot of us are turning back and looking back at where our traditional ties are as far as sovereignty is concerned and that sort of thing. I'll be upfront. I'm no monarchist by any stretch of the imagination. And frankly, I know what the Prime Minister was trying to do in getting the King to come and read the speech from the throne. I get part of the playbook in helping to express sovereignty. But if, you know what? If we are a sovereign nation, then we don't need somebody coming over from the UK to read a speech to help express our sovereignty in that way. I'm sorry, we just don't need it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, you're going to end up with the Governor General, who is the Queen's or the King's representative in Canada, which again is pain in my butt as well, quite frankly. I just think as a nation, we don't need that anymore. That, you know, that was the last century. This is the new century, the 21st century, 2025. And we are a country that, in a lot of ways, a country to be reckoned with. No doubt about it. You know, and Trump knows that we're rich in resources. We have a lot of smart people in this country, and we can do a lot of things with very little at times. Just look at what our military has pulled off over the last number of years with, you know, low funding. But our military still is looked up to for its ability to do a number of things. And, you know, and prime example was in the First War and the Second World War. Canadians always seem to get, you know, be at the front of the line for a lot of the major operations because we just pulled our weight. We pulled above our weight. Right. So I just don't get it, you know. And he comes with his wife, the Queen, and they're here for 2 days. They arrive, you know, midday on Monday, and late morning, early afternoon Tuesday, they're gone after he does the speech from the throne and then lays a wreath at the National War Monument.
Did they come over here on our plane? Did you notice that? It was the RCAF aircraft.
Well, because we invited them over. So,
with the amount of money they had, they should have gotten on their own airplane. But okay,
yeah.
You know.
Well, you know, it's like if you're doing consulting work, here's the fee plus expenses. So,
I guess.
Yeah. And that's what he was doing. He was doing consulting work. I'm here to, you know, consult and express your sovereignty. So.
Well, you know what, Gary? I mean, I hear what you're saying. I agree with you wholeheartedly about the monarchy and us being a sovereign nation. We don't need the monarchy here. But at the possibility of being ridiculed for paraphrasing, let's call a spade here. It worked at this particular moment with everything that's going on in the world, especially with our neighbors to the south and Herr Trump. I think this is something that Canada needed at this particular time. I'm just kind of trying to look at the other side of it from the devil's advocate perspective. Let's say, for example, we were not part of the monarchy, right? How would that speech the speech from the throne go yesterday? As you mentioned, the Governor General would have been the one delivering it. I don't think it would have had the impact on Canadians from coast to coast with the Governor General delivering the same message. So you know what? Maybe, you know, call me a hypocrite, but I'm not a monarchist, but I'm glad we were able to get some value out of the monarchy for a change. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But my question is, how much of an impact did it really make? And I would suggest it really didn't make any kind of an impact. As a matter of fact, the guy in the Oval Office surfaced, yesterday on Truth Social with that comment and bringing it up the 51st state again. So did we really score any points? But then the other side of it is, as was pointed out by a commentator, and I totally agree, Trump did not want to be off the news tickers in this country and have the king and like for whatever reason, a lot of the mainstream legacy media in the US, whenever there's something to do with the royals, they just gobble it up. They love it. Yeah. So I guess he just wanted to make sure that he was out there, and his name was out there, and the face. He just, as he's a narcissist, and I don't know.
So I guess what you're saying, in a deck of 52 cards, are you saying that the Joker needed to trump the king?
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what it is.
Good one.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Now coming back to the question about, and where'd we go with the question? Let's bring it up again. Oops. And we want that guy. There we go. What is driving renewed support for the monarchy? Tradition, current events, or something else? And Monel says current events. And I don't disagree with that. I think that, as I said earlier, I think that a lot of Canadians were looking for something. And this was, the other side of it is to remember too, the first couple of months, this country was really without a leader. Trudeau's resignation didn't take effect until March. But after that day in January, when he announced he was going to step down, he basically just kind of faded into the woodwork. And so we were leaderless. So, maybe a lot of people at that point in time were looking for something, some kind of semblance of a leader. I don't know. Mm-hmm. It could very well be. Okay, now we've got some comments rolling in here again too. So let's see. There we go. Nancy says, there we go. Trump has dissed all of the Canadian military accomplishments in the past. The King gave an impactful, respectful thank you to our troops. Yes, he did. He actually did do that. And you're right, Nancy. He has dissed our military big time. And he has no right whatsoever when you look at the contributions that Canadians have made. And we were there with them in Afghanistan. And,
everywhere. Except Vietnam, pretty much everywhere.
Yep, exactly. Deborah says Trump sees King Charles as a usurper. And Monel says, Gary, I don't agree with you. I think this made an impact on Trump. It really pissed him off because he has a lot of respect for King Charles. The whole castle and parades and jewelry thing. I don't know if it's respect or envy. I'd say I respectfully disagree on that part and say I think it's more envy than respect. Trump doesn't respect anyone but himself. Period. But I don't disagree with other parts of your statement, but I would say it's not respect, it's envy. And Trump tends to throw the word respect around very, 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 very loosely.
Loosely, yeah. Yeah,
very loosely. So, and usually when he's doing that, it's because he's envious. He said at one point about having respect for the prime minister.
Heck, he had respect for Putin.
Yeah.
He actually came out and said it. So, yeah.
And now he's on, there's a lover's quarrel going on there. Yeah. And look at Elon. Elon just took a real shot at him the other day, and like there's a major crack in that relationship. And Elon's packed his bags and moved out, so they're separated.
Yeah. Didn't you call that when that union happened, Gary? Didn't you call it? You basically said it was going to be just a matter of short time before Elon's going to have enough of this guy and get out of Dodge.
Yep,
it's exactly what you said.
Yep, and he was either going to go on his own or they were going to reach an agreement to get out because he was upstaging Trump. And you know, makes like sense. Yeah, and that does not go over well with Trump. So yeah. Anyway, that's the monarchy side of it. I was quite surprised actually by that survey and the fact that the monarchy is trending upward again. Now, let's see how long it lasts. Is it like a viral video around for a couple of days, like the nuns in South America doing beatbox on TikTok? Like, we'll see. We shall see. Okay.
You know what's good to see, Gary? At least we can put on a good, respectful welcome and show for the King and Queen of England, and a nice, respectful show to the rest of the world that was either watching it live or they're going to be watching it on reruns someplace. It was well done. It was very polished. It was very well orchestrated. It allowed for personalities to come through in terms of how it was covered by the media here. So once again, I think Canada had done itself proud in the way we welcomed them and the way we treated them for 2 days straight.
All right. And that sums it up quite nicely, Eddie. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So let's move on. Up next is Eddie's Playoff Pulse. So are you looking for a Canadian cloud storage solution that gives you similar options to Google Drive, OneDrive, and iCloud? Well, I stumbled upon Sync.com. It's a Canadian-based cloud storage service with the protection of Canadian privacy laws, and the pricing is competitive. There is an affiliate link below. You can sign up for a free 5 gig account to check it out. Well, here we are. The time has come. Eddie is here with his NHL Playoff Pulse. Take it away, Eddie.
Thank you very much, Gary. That's right. No need to fear. Eddie is here if you haven't been following hockey, both in the NHL and world. Before I get to the now there's only 4 left, a lot of hockey around the world. And I think I'll spend a little time to talk about the Professional Women's Hockey League, which has been missing for a long time. This league has been a long time coming, and it's a really, really great product from a market perspective. Most arenas are sold out. The gals are putting up quite a good demonstration and display of how hockey can be played. So from the Professional Women's Hockey League, yes, we do have an anointed champion. For the second year straight, we have the Minnesota Frost winning the Professional Women's Hockey League championship, and they played the Ottawa Charge, a Canadian team. And Minnesota Frost won over the Ottawa Charge 3-1. And just to tell you how close this was, 1-goal games. It's a best of 5. 4 games won in overtime. 3 games in single overtime, and 1 game went to triple overtime. Just to give you an idea of the quality of hockey and the excitement the gals can actually generate. So, congratulations to the Professional Women's Hockey League for their second year, which is also going through expansion. Next year, I think there's 2 more teams that are joining, which is great. Go out and see them if you can. It's great hockey next season. And congratulations to the Minnesota Frost for the second win in the second year of the PWHL. Now over to the World Hockey Championships. As maybe some of you didn't know, but annually the International Ice Hockey Federation holds an international tournament for ice hockey, and that typically happens in parallel to the Stanley Cup playoffs. And yes, there are NHL players that are part of the national teams. And typically these are the players from teams that either A, did not make it to the Stanley Cup playoffs, or B, were eliminated after the first round. So you'll see a lot of those players out there. And of course, Canada lost one game in their qualifying rounds, but they made it in very comfortably, along with the United States, into the elimination rounds. And Canada's first opponent, the first team, has been dubbed by the media as kind of a David versus Goliath match, a tortoise versus the hare match, a wolf versus sheep match. And yeah, it was Canada versus Denmark in the opening elimination round. And so in the third period, Canada is leaving 1-0, 1-0, good for, hooray for the good guys. And then as hockey is played down to the very last second in dramatic fashion, Denmark pulled their goalie. And with just under 2 minutes left to go in the game, Denmark pulls even with a goal after pulling their goaltender. So now we got a 1-1 tie, and we're looking at the possibility of overtime. And then with the game on the line, Denmark, little David, the little tortoise, with 49 seconds on the clock, they beat Canada. Absolutely remarkable upset. They eliminated Canada from competition, and Denmark advanced. You know what? I love feel-good stories. I'm sad that Canada lost in this tournament. They of course they always have a shot at the gold medal, but they got beat by somebody a lot smaller in terms of hockey power prowess. They played a solid game. I watched them intensely, a lot of replays and reviews. These guys played extremely, extremely hard and gave it to the Canadians. And you know what? Congratulations to Denmark for actually making it into the final rounds. I think it was the first time. So just to recap the World Men's Hockey Championship. The bronze medal was played between Sweden and Denmark. Denmark made it again to the final to the final four, of course. So Sweden won the bronze medal, beating Denmark 6-2. And then gold medal. The gold medal was decided in overtime after 0-0 3-period play, with our nemesis, a game between the United States of America and Switzerland. And I'm sorry to say, everyone, the United States in overtime beat Switzerland 1-0. So congratulations, United States, for winning the first, I believe it's their first or second World Hockey Championship. They made it. Good for them. And overall, from what I've been seeing and what I've heard, from the media, was a very, very competitive tournament. A lot of newcomer countries. Hungary was up there this year. Slovenia also played. My ethnic heritage from Slovenia. They actually made it to the World Hockey Championship. So a great tournament for Europe. Good crowds, and it was really nice to see that level of competition.
Yeah, it's a tough loss, Eddie. But by the same token, nothing to be ashamed of when you lose 1-0 in overtime. Just the bounce of the puck.
Exactly. Yeah, that's all it comes to. And that's what's the beauty about hockey. It does not. Yeah. You just cannot stop playing and just take it for granted that a team that just barely qualified for the elimination rounds, you can't take them for granted. They can have a great game. The goaltender could be standing on his head. Who knows? Like you were saying, a puck bounces the wrong way and it's in, or it rattles off of 2 or 3 legs and it goes in. That's just the nature of the game. You play hockey for 60 minutes. There is no taking your foot off the gas pedal.
So it sounds like you had a really schedule full of very, very, very entertaining hockey.
Yeah, I try to catch up and review most of them. I picked up on the prime games. I did pick up on the ones from Slovenia, of course. And you know what? I think they were in there for the fun because they didn't do very well, but at least they made it.
Well, exactly.
So it was a nice story. Yeah, they were in there.
So we should give both of those groups a round.
Very nice. And now we get to La Pièce de Résistance, the National Hockey League. So, And then there are four. We've got Florida, the Florida Panthers playing the Carolina Hurricanes in one series, which is the Western Conference Final. And we have the last remaining Canadian team, the Edmonton Oilers, playing the Dallas Stars. So I'll start with the Florida game. Gary, Florida took a commanding 3-0 lead. Florida, who, of course, the Florida Panthers are the reigning Stanley Cup champions, and they are playing like reigning Stanley Cup champions. The first and second round, they sputtered a little bit, but they really found their groove in this particular series. And Florida took a 3-0 lead. The lead is now 3-1. They lost Game 4 to Carolina. I think was 3-0. And they're playing Game 5 in Florida today. There were some concerns and complaints about the ice conditions in Florida, considering it's very hot and humid there this time of the year, which a lot of the Carolina players were not happy about. But the ice is the ice, and both teams have to play in it. So Game 5, Florida, with a win tonight, could advance to their third consecutive Stanley Cup championship. Yeah, it's the third consecutive one if they make it. The Edmonton Oilers, yes, they are playing the Dallas Stars, who I mentioned last week. This is the third time the Dallas Stars, third year in a row, the Dallas Stars are playing in the Western Conference Final, and they're trying to get into the Stanley Cup again, of course. They beat the Edmonton Oilers in Game 1 quite handily, 6-3, which was a little concerning because Dallas is a good team. But Gary, the Edmonton Oilers have come roaring back with 3 convincing wins. So they're leading the series 3-1. They won Game 2 3-0. They won Game 3 6-1 and Game 4 4-1. So they've outscored Dallas 16-8. So typically the names that would come up is, of course, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl leading the charge. The beauty about the Edmonton Oilers, absolutely every player on the ice is contributing on the scoreboard. So the Edmonton Oilers are coming at the Dallas Stars wave after wave after wave with the shots on goal, with the playmaking, and with the hits. There's one player, I forget his name right now. He had 80 some odd hits over the course of the regular season, which is 82 games. And he's thrown more hits in the Stanley Cup playoffs than in the entire regular season, just to show you that the Stanley Cup playoffs is a completely different season, and players really up their game and their commitment to their team. So Game 5 is tomorrow in Dallas, and with that win, we might end up having an Edmonton win. We might be having a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup final. And of course, as you know, Edmonton lost last year's game by 1 goal in Game 7. So good luck to the Edmonton Oilers. Canada's behind you. And as a matter of fact, Gary, I don't know if you saw in the news on our Champlain Bridge, which is the most heavily used bridge in the entire country, on the banners that basically tell you the status of the traffic. They basically had a Go Edmonton Oilers Go sign on the Champlain Bridge in Quebec. Now, what exactly? I mean, we're talking about, the Canadian unity issue and, a lot of people being part of Canada because of what's been happening with the threats from the United States. Hockey unites us in Canada regardless of politics. Here we are in Montreal cheering on for the Edmonton Oilers because they are a Canadian team. Wow, I absolutely love it, Gary. So
yeah,
game tomorrow.
Yeah, and it was the same last year too. Like it's amazing. It really is amazing. And no sign of the language police.
No, none at all.
Anyhow, and that's great to see. And you're right, Eddie. Like it's just one more example of that flow of unity that all of a sudden, if nothing else, the last 5 months, it really has brought this country closer together. And despite the pitfalls and all of the negativity that surrounds us at the moment, watching this country become as united as I can ever remember it being is really something. It's just a true moment. I can't find words for it, but it's great to see. It really is. And that brings us to the end of episode 35 of Night Talk. From royal addresses to rinkside thrills, we have managed to hit the pivotal moments shaping our nation and our favorite sport. Thank you for checking in on our stream tonight. And don't forget to like and or subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments below. Night Talk returns in 7 days. I'm Gary MacDonald. Good night.
Good night,
Eddie. Good night, Eddie.